Anyway, go ahead. With
We
your
are
story.
now.
Oh, great.
None of that was recorded.
We're talking about raw milk. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, actually, I think this was in 2015. I was interning for the senator for Kanawha and Putnam County, Chris Walters.
Oh, I know him.
We know Chris.
And
Brooke babysits for him.
oh, really?
Yeah.
No, he's a great guy. But no, that was we would meet with lobbyists and then we would discuss different proposed legislation, and that was a big one. Was the permitting the commercial sale in the state of West Virginia of raw milk,
What's raw milk?
unpasteurized.
Gross.
Right.
Why would we want to buy
straight, I guess, so to speak.
It's going to give you the real benefit of milk, not the crap that we drink now.
Straight from the teat.
Straight from the teat.
Just how
Just like I sent you. Those mommies that are getting rich. That one I sent him, there's this one woman that started doing the I showed you too.
So gross.
But she's doing that. She started an Instagram and a YouTube channel of promoting breastfeeding children. What'd she tell that one kid? She said, "Don't play with it, just eat." I mean, the kid was.
That's right.
The kid was walking up to
That's
it
child abuse.
and grabbing it.
You talk about that.
Now
a lot,
listen.
actually, Chaz.
Jeff's very.
She's making bank, man, because she's kind of sexualized it, like she's trying to look sexy.
Yeah.
She's always
So
fixed up and done up, and then
bad.
putting them on the
She is,
boob and
yeah.
making
That's
sure the
bad.
boob's showing.
That's
You
child
know what I
abuse.
mean? And like maybe the nip slip, the baby just sometimes it just comes
there's my
off the
bare
boob.
That's child
breast.
abuse.
Yeah,
Well,
That's child abuse.
She's getting paid.
I don't care. It's child
Don't
abuse.
hate the player.
No, I wouldn't.
Hate the
No, I would
kitty
not.
game.
I mean, if you can ask
would not.
for it,
No,
then
I-
it's time to reevaluate.
Yeah.
Hey, would you want her doing that if you guys were getting paid millions for
No.
it?
No.
No.
But if I
No.
had a nanny that would do it for us and share it with us, it's a really hot nanny. No,
That's disgusting. That's disgusting.
But he's right, because he sent me the video. She's really attractive. She's done up. She looks good, but she just has that kid.
That video
That's
you
what-
showed me, she didn't look good. She was
it's
worn
gross.
down.
Well, there's a lot. You turned your head after a second. She looked.
Oh.
She's
She's not like in like a professional outfit or anything like that, but like you can tell like
Yeah.
she's trying to look like with
more
her
Yeah.
sensual.
Yeah. Like she isn't like a.
It's not. It's not
trying
your
to be mean.
wholesome homeschool mom.
She's not like an oversized woman or anything.
It's
like
kinda
that.
like-
With,
She was
Peanut
dressed
butter
up
on her.
like a Handmaid's Tale.
Right? I'm sorry. I'm not saying breastfeeding is child abuse. I'm saying when you're 5. Was that boy 5 or 6?
Oh yeah.
When
She
they
said
can
up
ask.
to 5. I think.
I mean, that's too much. I mean, that's.
When you have to tell them to quit playing with their food and it's your titty,
Oh
that's
gosh!
bad.
Don't just.
right?
That's.
Quit playing with your food.
That,
Raise a good
no.
point.
And they're just like,
No.
Can we talk about something really quick?
Yes,
Who was-
please.
Not all right. So when it comes to like drinking milk, who was the deviant that said, "Hey, let's take something from the udder of a cow and drink it"?
Yeah, I don't know.
pretty gross, really.
Yeah, let's
And it's
take
not even something we really need or should have.
right. But
They taught us it was, but it's like I haven't had dairy for.
You used to love milk.
I did. I used to drink. I used to keep frozen mugs in the freezer,
for milk,
and I would drink glasses of milk at night.
I mean,
I've never been a milk fan.
I mean,
Aunt
either.
Maddie does that.
Yeah, Maddie likes it.
Chocolate milk, but I haven't had
We don't
chocolate
even have milk.
forever.
If Maddie's in town, we have to get milk. When Maddie's not in
no,
town,
we have some, but we don't use it a lot.
no, because we don't eat cereal anymore. And you know what? I think since I've quit drinking milk, like sometimes I'll splurge and I'll go eat cereal, and it destroys my stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here if I
The
do it
milk
too, 'cause
destroys
I
my
know-
stomach.
Yeah.
oh, you
I never
developed
drank
some sort of
milk growing up, never
lactose
had.
Yeah.
allergy. Nah, but that's an interesting thing to think about. Though, who was the guy way back when that said, "You know what? Let's take something
This
from
disgusting animal.
the right."
It's
and
titty.
and you know damn well they drank that shit straight from the source.
Oh
too.
yeah,
It had to be deviant. He was probably stoned to death.
Ew, had
for
to be.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Sucking on that teeth.
exactly.
It's
And
like
it went-
everybody's got to try it.
And it went viral.
It went viral.
Oh gosh, that's so gross.
But the sale of raw milk was
This says that milk drinking started around 7,500 years ago in Central Europe. The genetic change
Not
that
surprised.
enabled early Europeans to drink milk without getting sick has been mapped to.
Ew.
It's possible that the first is that?
What?
I have no idea, my friend.
How'd you say that? Whatever were.
This is what we call great radio.
Yeah, European farmers were the first.
That's just gross. I no.
Sick European farmers.
I was gonna say, well, you
It
know
had to
what?
be a European.
The Euros are they do a stand-up job when it comes to the exploration of sexual encounters. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That makes total sense now that it came from
Right.
there.
But no, that's
There's nothing gross or crazy that comes out of America.
That's absolutely right.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not
That's-
saying
that's
that. But
what-
I'm just saying.
we do no wrong.
No, nothing.
But
Oh my gosh. What else we gonna talk about?
Gang, gang. I think Storm has some.
Gang gang.
I have some. Yeah, there's some pretty interesting things I was wanting to.
Well, let's go. Let's dive right in. Enough
Well, I mean,
milk
we
talk.
might as well just get right to it. So, I just want to preface all of this by saying, I truly think that there is a mental health crisis in this country.
Yes, agree.
And being a young adult male in like a rural area, it's been really difficult to navigate. And as I think back on it, it's something that I wish I would have addressed long ago. But so I know it's really no secret that, and I know, like, I've told you, I've told Chaz, I've told Jeff, I've been diagnosed with severe clinical depression and what's called dysthymia, which is chronic mild depression.
Okay.
And it's something that I take medicine for every day, and I have no shame in it whatsoever.
Right.
And but coming from a place like rural West Virginia, there is sort of a stigma that surrounds it, and I know it actually cost me a relationship with this young woman I was extremely interested in, and I'm not gonna say her name, but everything was going great until I told her, hey, I just wanted to be transparent with you and tell you I take medication for depression. And she said, "C'est la vie," and that was the end of it.
What?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, like I said, it's one of those things that's very polarizing, but, I'm here to say, to anybody who hears this, if you need help, get help, and there's no shame in it whatsoever, especially,
Oh, absolutely.
and I mean,
Absolutely.
especially, somebody like me who, I'm a former college athlete, about as masculine of a male as they come. Big dude, really into bodybuilding, and what I'm trying to say is, don't let anything give you a reason not to seek help if you need it, whether that be therapy or
Right.
actually, pharmaceuticals.
Right.
No shame in it whatsoever.
I'm glad you said that, because I wish Brooke was here, because we were talking. I was talking to her counselors at school and everything, whatever. She struggles with some anxiety, and I just found out the other day from the social worker at GW that because we don't have insurance,
She does a good job,
Right.
too.
so but there's a medical card you can get through DHHR, I guess, that will pay for a therapist for you. For Brooke to talk about her. Well, when Brooke got home, I said, I really want you to do that. And she took offense to it. She was like, I don't need a therapist. That's embarrassing. And there is a stigma on it.
There is.
And I hate that, because I told Brooke, I said, I wish I had a therapist. I mean, I have anxiety, but it's nowhere near the point of where I need to take any type of medication or anything like that.
Right.
Everybody needs a therapist.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think, yeah. And I mean, when you look at people, especially some of the more successful people in this country, I mean, a lot of them see somebody weekly.
Right.
And I think a lot of it deals with, especially people our age, I mean, there's just so much stress and pressure to put on you to succeed.
Right.
And then you also have all these other things. You have all these different social media platforms to where
Oh my gosh.
it's constantly being thrown in your face, the perfect body, the
Right.
fashion, and you see where people are at this current their current status in life,
Right.
and then you are constantly comparing yourself to where they are, things
Yeah.
things of that nature, and it's a lot. And I mean, most of the time, a lot of the stigma is generally created from, those from older people. But I mean, the thing that they need to realize is, I mean, we're living in a much different time and place and world in which they did.
Right.
So, I was gonna say I want to wait till Jeff gets back to get into this story there, because, like I said, because I know I had to go a step farther, but
right. Well, the social media is a big thing, but what I like to tell, because in my industry where I work, I have, my clients are always comparing themselves to other people,
right?
And you've got to remember that nobody puts their crappy stuff on social media.
No.
Nobody. You always put your best picture with your best angle, with the best filter, with the best lighting.
Right.
You know what I mean? The happy times, the good things. Look what the good things that my kid did. Look at this outfit. It's my best outfit.
Right.
Little do you know, it's the only great outfit that I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the only, you know what I'm saying? You've got to remember that. And that's what I tell my kids. Please don't, because when we were growing up, we only could compare ourselves to like magazines,
right,
or like people on television,
or those around
or those around us. We didn't have it at our disposal for right now for me to turn on my Instagram and see 17 women who look better than me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what I try to tell my kids. You got to remember that they're just putting their best out there. Right. They're just like you.
Right.
So that's what you got to
remember. And I mean, and that was a big topic of conversation the last time Chaz and I were here, was social engineering and things of that nature.
I mean, it's great. There's a couple people on Instagram that I follow. She does an amazing job. She normally posts the prettiest pictures, but she got real one day.
Right.
And took the lighting off, took the filter off, and stood a different way. She looked like a different person.
Right. Oh, there's YouTube videos.
You know what I mean?
But I know, especially being a trainer there, I'm sure whenever you're taking on a new client, I would say probably, this is more, I'm just going to phrase this in a question. How often do you hear them say, I want to look like so-and-so?
Oh, all the time.
I'd say that's probably, yeah.
All the time.
But no, that's the thing. People, there's just a lot of pressure now. It really is.
There is a lot of pressure. And then you put in being in the industry that I'm in, I put a lot of pressure on myself, because I feel like that, if I slip up a little bit, you have to look. There's a lot of pressure on personal trainers to look a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's bad.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean? I do the same thing. I'll get on Instagram and I'll scroll through and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really need to work harder. I need to do, and it's awful. It's awful.
And I know all celebrity trainers and things like that.
Yeah, and they probably struggle too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you got to hold yourself to a different standard, and sometimes it's too much.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's what I say about you. It's like you're always like, you find as good as you look and as great a shape as you are, and all the gains and all of the success you have in developing what you want to, all you ever talk about is the one piece that you feel like isn't perfect, and that's
what I'm saying.
That's not fair to yourself, because that's not what it's about.
I know.
Unless you're just a slob and you let yourself go and you're telling other people to live a certain way, just like if you're going to be self-righteous and tell people to live like this certain moral life, but you aren't, that's one thing.
Right.
But you can take it too far.
Sure.
No matter what the circumstances are.
No, you're right.
And it's hard on your mental health.
It is.
Absolutely.
Speaking of, all right, so dig into your story.
All right, so anyway. And again, this is my warning to people, because you really want to get in front of this and take it head on immediately once you recognize that there is an issue. So anyway, it was I think it was actually the week of Thanksgiving, and this is just like the start of it. And I was on my way home, and actually I was actually on my way to go pick up Chaz. Yeah. I was going to pick up Chaz for breakfast. And long story short, I was in a car accident. And, that was kind of like my breaking point. I had pretty much stopped taking my antidepressants, and I'd stopped going to therapy just because, again, I was feeding into the stigma, after this, woman I was seeing broke things off completely because she found out I was on antidepressants. I was like, well, fuck this. I mean, if it's this bad and like people think like this poorly about it, then I mean I don't want to do it if it's gonna rob me of
relationships.
Exactly. And so that was kind of like my breakdown. And I know that it's bad. And again, this is kind of like my PSA. If you've ever had any thought whatsoever, and here's another thing I really want to be clear about. Being suicidal is not necessarily formulating a plan, saying, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to end my life, I'm going to do it this way. No, being suicidal is wishing that you were no longer alive. If you ever wake up and you feel so helpless that you truly feel like you just wish you were dead, that's being suicidal, and I strongly encourage you to go get help.
Yeah.
So I knew things came to a head whenever I had that car accident. So after speaking to my mother and my stepfather, we decided that it would be best for me to commit myself, right?
Right.
To, psychiatric care. Now again, that's a big decision.
It's a huge decision.
It is. And I will tell people that, once you go down that path, you are essentially, because I did it just because, I wanted to go there for the main reason of like getting my medications like straightened out. Because I know that one of my other things about it was I'd stopped taking my antidepressants. I was taking a lot of like different like supplements that were, that did different things with my hormones.
Sure.
And I just felt like that had an effect, and
Yeah.
so that was my main reason. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll check myself in, and I will, on the stipulation that I reserve the right to check myself out. Not true. Not
But
true.
you thought when you checked yourself
Yes.
in, you were under the assumption that you could check yourself out?
Yes. Because again, I know, being in like the legal field, I knew one of my close friends actually did things. He was a attorney for the state that helped defend people when it came to mental hygiene.
Right.
So, when it gets to that point, when the state says you're committed, you're there until
They deem you
fit to
because
re-enter.
your family can sue them if something happens.
Right, and I know actually, there was a tort, like one of the main tort cases you read about deals with that.
Right.
But
Because I've had to find coverage for these type of.
I can imagine.
It's very difficult.
Yeah,
Especially like the professional liability, not just the general liability, but the professional
Right.
liability where you're.
Wow.
Yeah, you've got some real issues. Sorry to get an insurance, but I mean, I can see from a legal side and
Right.
in our state how things work when
That's
you got the
interesting
big
you bring that
pockets.
up,
right,
You're the one that's going to if you walk out of there and they should have. If there are any signs, they should not let you leave.
right,
Right, and there's a pretty big sign when you commit yourself in. They probably.
right. And I know, and honestly, I'm glad you brought that up because I know that's we'll get into that. But so again, essentially, like when you check yourself in, you don't necessarily reserve the right to check yourself out whenever. Because I know, as dumb as this sounds, part of my reason in doing all that was I watched this episode of this show called The League.
Oh, yeah.
Dirty Randy. Whenever he said, "You know what? I'd like to check myself out of this facility, please." I was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Perfect." So you know what? And plus, I mean, and again, I'm not trying to like throw any sort of blame out, but the way that the information was presented to my parents and I, all indications led that was the protocol. If I checked myself in, I could check myself out. And anyway, so long story short, I signed the paperwork. I decided it would be best for me to go, and I mean, I didn't really know what to expect, and it was Charleston. The Charleston area hospitals did not have any sort of they have to have beds open. for the wings.
Right.
And again, that kind of feeds into like sort of why I say there's a mental health crisis, but that's a story for a different day. I'm trying to get into the funny stuff.
Question though, before just logistics, because it makes a difference because of my skepticism for the medical field in general and the insurance field, which I'm in, health insurance field.
Right.
Who's paying for this?
Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up because I know that was something that we later on had to address.
If I can ask that,
No, it was
I'm just interested.
no. I mean, it was at the time they said that my insurance would pay for it, and I mean, I have like really, really shitty insurance. It's just like some random like private cheap insurance that I pay out of pocket for. And they said it would pay. My insurance would pay for it, but then something happened, and then they said that they wouldn't. But,
And they got you at that point.
right,
And somebody's going to pay for it at that point.
right. Now, I think, granted, when I told them, like, I'm a law student and I work for, I'm not gonna say the attorneys I work for, but I was
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
but I mean, I was like, do I need to speak to them? Then things changed, so then automatically my insurance would cover it again. But it was just kind of a fight. But anyway, so it was decided that I was going to go to Fairmont General Hospital and get the help that I needed. And like the whole time leading up to this, I just said I don't really want a roommate because that's the thing. They said you're probably gonna have a roommate.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want a roommate, and especially I don't want someone that's like fucking, talking to themselves or like taking their shit and like drawing hieroglyphics on the wall.
Right.
Things like that. And I was told that I probably wouldn't have one based on they said you're a pretty sound mind. You're just going up there to get your medications like straightened out and all that. I was lied to.
Keep in mind, I'm wondering where he's at.
Yeah.
Oh, you still don't know where he is?
No.
Chaz does not know what's going on.
No.
I don't
Nobody
know what's
did.
going on. I know nobody did.
Do they take your cell phone?
You're not allowed to. Yeah, you can't.
No, I end up getting told what the deal was.
Yeah.
I end up being told. I end up getting
The details,
Because
sure.
he reached
sure.
out. We don't got to say who it was. He reached out to somebody. They got to me.
Yeah.
They gave me the full rundown. But
Then you freaked out.
I freaked out in the fact of I either thought he got pulled over by the cops and like he
Right.
was going to jail because he'd still probably had alcohol in his system.
Yeah, it was early in the morning.
Yeah, it was really early because he had called me, and I woke up like an hour later, like 45 minutes later,
Right.
and then we agreed. And he was already on the road, or he was getting Uber to his.
Yeah, I took an Uber to my truck.
And I actually
That would
offered. I was
was
like,
at the
I
bar.
can just leave your truck there, and we can
Yeah.
eat. You can sober up and go back to your truck. But he was already on his way. But yeah, I didn't know where he was at this time. But I was worried. Yes,
okay,
I
yeah.
was worried.
Right.
But go ahead.
So anyway, I get to Fairmont General, right? And I'm like doing like all my registration. They like have like, it was actually hilarious because I felt like fucking Hannibal Lecter. I had like 3 security guards, like, and the 2 ladies that brought me there in the ambulance. They took me, and we were walking back, and I mean, like, I'm a fairly large dude, and I'm wearing like I'm wearing just like a zip up, and I'm wearing like a Gymshark tank, and like sweats, and anyway, so like all these people are like surrounding me and stuff, and I was just like, what the fuck? And I mean, like the whole time, I mean, like I wasn't in a bad mood. I always try to find the best in any situation. So actually, the whole ride up, I was talking to the lady in the one of the EMTs that took me up in the ambulance. We just talked Alabama football because she was big. She's originally from Louisiana, and big Bama fan. And I mean, like, everything was great. And so anyway, they're like all up there. I feel like fucking Hannibal Lecter, and like I just like see all these people like kind of timid looking at me. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why? And then later on, I would realize it would dawn on me why. So, which we'll get into. But anyway, when they're doing my intake and everything, the guy told me, he said, so listen, you have a roommate. And immediately the first thing that went through my head was like, oh, fuck. And he said, so not to like stress you out or freak you out, but he's, a guy in like his early to mid 20s. He checked himself in as well. And, he just, he hears people talk to him. And
Oh, great.
yeah, and I'm just like,
That's normal.
I'm like, all right, bro.
So he's
Like,
schizo,
yeah. Well, I don't,
which is very, very interesting.
right. So I'm just sitting there, I'm just like, man, what the fuck? So I was like, all right, whatever. Let's just go. Let's get this over with. So he walks me to my room, and all of a sudden, like, you know, like I see somebody like peek up out of bed and everything, and I'm just like, all right, whatever. And finally, the guy leaves and closes the door, and I'm laying there, and like, bro, this guy's just like fucking talking to himself. Like, I mean, like he's just like talking to himself, like, and again, like
I not have him on meds like that would help that.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure they did. I mean, like they would come in and give you like your medications and things like that, and I know I kept having to get like blood work and stuff done because again, they thought a lot of my issues were that like I was on, because I told them supplements, and they thought I was on like steroids, and they thought that was kind of like affecting my mood,
Feeding it, yeah.
and things like that.
A little roid rage.
Exactly, but anyway, so that was my first experience with like actually being around the people that were struggling with, that were actually admitted, my ward mates, so to speak. So the next day, like I wake up and I finally forced myself to sleep, even though this guy's like literally like talking to himself, and like he's like, sometimes he would get animated.
That would be unsettling to try to fall asleep with someone doing that.
Right, and
I would not be able to.
And again, I
It'd
mean,
be very difficult.
It was, and I mean, like I was like kind of like freaked out, and that's why. Again, I mean, like eventually it got to the point where I didn't sleep, and I'll tell you how.
Which will make you even crazier.
Oh,
right. If you can't sleep, you go crazy.
I mean, again, the best way I can sum all this up is if anybody's ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson, because it was obvious I should not have been there, and it just goes to show like people who should not be in that environment, it can be devastating, the effects of it.
Why can't there be different levels like there is in prison?
That's what
like minimal and like, you know, this is these
kinda,
people are really off the spectrum, and this guy just needs to get his
Right.
meds taken care of.
It
Maybe
sounds
needs
like
to
that's
talk
how
to
they
somebody.
sold it to you, though.
It's exactly how they sold it.
That's how they sold it to you. You're just someone that committed yourself. You need
Right.
to
But
get
I mean,
your meds
actual
straightened
different
out.
levels. Like this is like
Yeah,
a minimal. You know what I mean? And this is
Right.
max.
He held
you
it
know?
together. Once he finished, he held it together
Well,
very, very well.
And here's where things.
Your outlook on it all was the mindset you had, and your outlook was what got.
And here, well, the thing about it is, I knew, I had the mental wherewithal to tell myself, like, dude, if you don't try to find as like some sort of morbid, fucked up humor with this.
Amen, brother. I love
what he
this.
did.
Exactly.
I
And
love this.
that's why I told Chaz.
He told me that. As soon
I
as he
told
got-
one thing I told Chaz was like, I can't wait to fucking tell Jeff this story. It's like,
I love it.
But
I've
that's
been
how,
waiting.
That's
I
how
love
he
it.
got through, though. That's exactly what
Yeah.
he did.
Seriously.
The 3 days or 2 days he was there. Yeah.
Oh, I was there a week.
A whole week? Was
Yeah.
it a whole
Yeah, I
Just
thought you
about a
told me
week.
that when you were here for the for the Super Bowl.
Well,
I thought you were telling me it was about a week.
No, for my party, not the Super Bowl.
I'm sorry for the party. I thought you were here for the Super
Oh, he
Bowl.
was.
We
Never
were.
mind. Forget
Yeah.
it. Just kidding.
So let me see.
He was
No.
here for both.
Yeah, my bad.
No, you might have been a week, man. You're probably
Actually, it
right.
was about 4 or 5 days. 4 or 5 days.
Regardless, it probably felt like a month.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, it felt like a fucking eternity. And honestly, part of the reason for that was there were no clocks on the
Clocks there.
wall.
That's what I don't understand.
Oh my gosh,
No,
that would drive
make
me
you
crazy.
Exactly. There's no fucking concept
you
of
You gotta
time.
go on a
Serious.
sundial? Like you're like, wait, the sun's going down. Must be the end of the day.
That's what
Oh,
I told
yeah.
him when he told me that. Go on ahead.
No, I mean like there's like an
Well-
electronic clock.
But you would go crazy before like since we're at a spot where you got your train of thought where I can say something.
Oh yeah, you're good.
All right, like
Oh, he won't forget.
I want to go back to like what you said about suicide,
Yeah.
about how it's not something planned out and people don't really talk about it.
Right.
Because last year we lost my cousin to suicide, and I told you about it. I don't know if he told you about it,
I don't think so.
but I grew up with him across the street. You know, Angie knows him well. We know him well. We lived in Georgia. He hung out. You know, we went to concerts with him and his ex, and he ate family dinners with us. You know, with me and my parents. But he grew up across the street. He was Big Jeff. I'm Little Jeff because his name was Jeffrey Michael Runyon, and my name is Jeffrey Michael Runyon. Same name. But really, were you ever around him when he wasn't smiling? Did he seem
Oh,
depressed?
No, not at all.
He was always smiling. He's always happy. Well, guess what? He had a fight with his mom. He lost. He had a problem with drinking. Got a DUI. Him and his wife got divorced. She moved on. She got a family. You know, he's struggling to keep it together.
On the deep end, yeah.
And then
But
he's
has
living.
2 kids.
He has 2 kids. He's living in his parents' basement. He's got his own company now. He's got a painting company with a partner.
Yeah.
Late 40s.
And he's like maybe 2 to 3. He's probably 47. He's probably 47, 46 at the time. But I would have never thought this guy. And I looked up to him as a kid.
Right.
He's the coolest guy around. He had all the girls. He was just fun and energetic, and he's the party guy, right? Always a party guy, and that's what probably got him in a lot of trouble.
Right.
With his wife, all that. So they always partied and they had a good time. But I mean, he just went to his partner's house because he was living in his parents' basement, getting his stuff together, right? And the sad thing is he got in a fight with his mother, who is like another mother to me. You know what I mean? She's
Right.
like my mom's best friend. She's amazing. And that day, they found him 3 or 4 days later, but he went to his partner's house, who his
Business partner.
was out of town
Yeah.
for the week. Pulled in the garage, shut the garage door, left the car running. You know what I mean?
Right.
That situation. But you would have never thought Jeff would have done that.
I was shocked when I found out. I think I was with you having coffee when I found out.
Yeah.
I couldn't. You were. I
yeah.
think I remember.
Yeah, I remember that.
I
Yeah, Jeff
could not.
called,
Like when
yeah.
my mom, my dad called me, and I was like, huh?
And
And he said that. He said Big Jeff because that's how they refer to me,
Right.
Little Jeff and Big Jeff. But I mean, like, wait a minute. I just talked to him. Like, I didn't talk to him a lot, but he'd call me because he was in real estate and he had his painting company. And he just called me like probably a month before, and we talked about insurance stuff because I'm in the insurance business, and he was
Right.
having an issue with his insurance. And we caught up, but it was like, he was happy. He seemed great. So I'm confirming, like, I never thought that way. I thought that these people, like, were miserable people, and it was like someone you always had to check
It's
on.
blatantly that you can
and that
see
you had to
and
make
think,
sure they're
yeah.
okay, and they had signs and symptoms, and maybe they did to his mom, maybe.
Right.
But no, I mean, she didn't. I mean, that everybody blames themselves, the people close to him, because now she has to live with that. She basically, the last words she had for him were not friendly.
Right. Which
And
would be
he's
extremely
gone.
difficult.
Yeah.
And I got a similar story like that. This is a really quick one.
That's it.
It's-
I gotta break for a second because I gotta use the bathroom really bad.
Go ahead.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you know
Appreciate
what it
it.
You're
is.
good. I'll go ahead and
Yeah, tell
just
the
tell
story.
it. I might have even told Storm, but last year one of my mom's good friends actually committed suicide. She actually committed it. Well, she'd been going through a rough patch actually, but my mom was still there for her all the time and stuff like that, and they were really close or whatever. Well, one day, she actually lived not too far from where my mom works.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she sent my mom a text before it actually happened.
Like within
Yes.
hours.
But it wasn't like a blatant, it was just like it's just like when somebody's going through something and they just thank you for being there. It wasn't like,
So
Yeah.
it was almost like a thank you, goodbye, like a
it was
friendly,
a thank you, it was a
thing.
friendly thank you.
It wasn't a, like help. It was more
no,
like
it was a thank you, goodbye.
like
It was
I'd send to you if I'd talk to you about something personal. I'd say,
Yeah.
"Hey man, thanks for listening.
Thanks for
Thank you
listening.
so
Thanks
much.
for always
I
being
love
there
you."
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what it was. And my mom still felt a little weird about it though when she got it, because like
The gut.
the gut,
Intuition.
it wasn't like I don't know if it was in the fact that they had been texting, and then she just said it, or
The change in.
or it was just a text like that. But she said she didn't feel right about it. And I'll never forget whenever she said, I can't remember how much longer it was after that, because I think she even left work to go up actually to where that person was, and there was cops outside and stuff. And then they had
Wow.
already. So it was basically like you said a goodbye.
Gosh.
Well, but the thing is I think, like he said, from all the stories I've heard, like of that, it's almost like someone like your story about certain decisions you got to make that you don't really want to do it. You just want it to go away, but you know you have to do it. Which in that you got to be in a bad place to know you have to do it. But it's like being on the high dive, and then you keep walking off. Somehow you're like,
Yep.
no, I'm not going to do it. But then there's a day where you just are, boop, you know what, like you shut down and it's like, I'm jumping. I don't care. It's time. I'm done. And it's an impulse. It's almost like an impulse thing, right? Like where somebody, and I don't know, I've never been there, never even close. But I mean, I know it's probably an impulse thing. And I'm not saying it couldn't be. I would never judge I could be there. Something could happen in my life
of course.
that could spin me down into a place.
Anybody. Yeah, anybody could be like that.
So I don't want to say I could never do that, because that's something I've learned being my age, is like you never, ever, ever say never. Because you almost set yourself up when you do that. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, the scientific explanation for it is, and again, I mean, this is something that my therapist explained to me, and that's part of the reason why I said, suicide's more than just having a plan.
I agree with that.
It's just a lack of desire to want to continue on and feeling that you would be better off dead. It's to the point to where like your brain just says like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are, or being able to compartmentalize, or whether or not you have different circumstances or different things around you that push you forward. It's your brain literally just saying like, I can't do this anymore.
Mercy.
Yeah, exactly.
You give yourself mercy.
Exactly.
It's kind of like I've said, like euthanasia, right? Like, or like, it's like, okay, man, come on, the guy, he's not breathing, he's in pain, he's 87. Like, just if he wants to let it go, like, let's just inject him.
Like assistance, yeah. Right.
Yeah, and let him go. But that's because he's 87 and he's sick and he's going to die within months. He's just going to be a painful death. It's when somebody can be helped and they're
right
29 or 35 or 52, there's hope left. It's just they can't see it, right?
Right.
You just can't see it.
Right. And I mean, again, that's why, like, I truly, if anybody gets anything out of this, like, it's just, go get help. There's no shame in it at all. And I know especially my message is, like, more directed towards, those rural masculine males who just feel like it's something, some sort of weakness to go do it. There's no shame in it. There's not. But no, I know. All right. So, all right. Back to
alpha females too, because
yeah,
some people can be like that are female too, that are like, no, I'm strong, I can do it, I don't need help. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's people.
It's anybody.
There's people that are stubborn and they think, well, what you thought, right? When you had the accident, like, what'd you think? You lost a relationship, which I hope you understand at this point, that's not you.
Oh, no, right.
Right?
Right.
Somebody's got to say, like I've talked about having adult ADD, and I was shameful about that.
Right.
But there's something missing, right? And I need some help to make it whole.
Right.
And I got to take something if I want to get anything done.
Right.
So I've got to take it, and it makes me whole. And yeah, there might be side effects, but if I want to be whole and be able to complete projects and do the things I need to do daily, I got to do it. So why is it a problem for someone with depression or with schizophrenia? You know what I mean?
Right.
Somebody's got to be there. So whoever that person was, they're foolish.
That left him?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
I
foolish.
agree.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? It's not the right person, because you don't want. You wouldn't have wanted them to stick around, because clearly they aren't there for you.
No, and I mean,
they're there for them. And what true commitment and love is you give up all of yourself for the other person.
Well, see, the thing about it is, it wasn't necessarily like that. I mean, like, I just know, because I know I even told Chaz, and I told her, I was like, you know what, I really appreciate your honesty.
Sure.
And I mean,
I
I
didn't agree with medication.
Yeah, and I appreciate, like, I truly,
Okay.
I didn't falter for her.
Then let her go.
Like, the only thing was just like, it was just everything. It was just like,
But she was upfront about it, though.
Yeah, she was.
Well, then when she has a child, or when she has a surgery, when somebody says, "Hey, you're going to die if you don't get this surgery," say, "Well, I don't want any help.
Yeah.
I don't want any medication. I don't want you to put me to sleep. I don't want anesthesia, because
still
I don't
not
believe in it."
But nah, I mean, like, but I truly, I was like, that was just part of. I mean, like, it
Well,
was
I
just
guess she didn't. I think you told me she didn't. I could be wrong.
what.
She didn't believe in you
No,
taking antidepressants.
yeah.
Like antidepressants.
And I told her, I told her I was ADHD. But
I guess that's what she
but
said.
yeah,
she
like,
antidepressants.
but yeah,
maybe.
she would. which I mean, one thing that was funny about all of it was like she actually was like advocating for me to like take steroids. Yeah, I know it's really weird. I give up. I mean, like I said, I don't.
Well, listen, she has some problems.
She does.
Oh, you don't even know the half of it.
But I'm just saying, all you have to do is tell me that, wait, this person doesn't want me to be mentally stable or healthy, or she doesn't care about me being in a depressed state.
She wants you to be jacked.
But she wants me to be jacked so she can be on my arm and look a certain way.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, she hit me up on Snapchat after I posted a picture that said vegan and not on roids. Remember, it was at the casino.
Mm-hmm.
But so nah. I mean, nah. Like I said, I didn't fault her at all. I mean, that was just part of it. I was just upset about that, and I was upset just because I know it sounds really dumb, but I mean, like, I love my truck. That was like part of my identity, and I knew that was fucked, and then like obviously the deeper things were, like I wasn't working. I'm still home in West Virginia. I'm not back in law school. That was one thing that bothered me. It was just everything. It was at that point everything had just like, pushed. I felt like the way I described it was I always felt like Atlas, like I was holding up all of this on my shoulders.
You told me that a bunch, yeah.
And
a lot of it's a lot of it's stuff that hopefully you can come to a place where you don't put the pressure on yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Time, because all that matters is that you get to a place where you're excited about your life every day.
Right. And I
right.
mean,
Regardless of the law school, regardless of the job.
Right.
Because us people sitting at 45 that are stuck in a job or not doing what we absolutely love would go back and totally not try to keep up with somebody that looks like they've made it because they're done with med school or law school and they've got 2 kids and a wife, but they're freaking miserable because that's not what they want to do, really.
Right. Nah, and I mean, and in all honesty, that was one thing like throughout this whole experience that's kind of helped me grow, and I'm in a lot better place now because I mean immediately when I got out, like one of the things I was trying to like evaluate was what do I want to do, and the thing is I realized after mostly self-reflection and then talking to certain people who are extremely influential in my life, I realized that I was on the right path. I just had I had proven to be the biggest distraction and the kind of the architect of kind of the demise of certain things. But the good thing is now I get to start fresh and moving forward with the knowledge that I have now based on sort of these things that I deal with. Since I've decided to face it head on, I think it's put me in a good spot moving forward. But no, like I said, the biggest thing that helped me was my time in Fairmont General in the nut house, so to speak, and it helped me grow as a person because, like I said, me being me, and my friends can attest to this, and I'm sure you and Jeff and Angie can attest to this. Like I try to find humor in everything, and I mean that's why I always told you I was like it was the worst experience of my life, but I said there's
levels to it.
There's no personal anecdote that I have that I can share with people that is more fucked up and hilarious than this.
There's levels.
Because
I'm excited about this.
Because I had to. I had no other fucking choice, and here's why. So, like I said, I get there, I go to my room, and my man in the bed next to me is talking to his fucking self. And somehow, some
I'm
way.
sorry if I start laughing.
Oh no, I want you to. Like I said,
I know.
But I mean, I'm just like I'm just like where the fuck am I? And anyway, so finally, and by the way, so this bed is like, I mean, like I'm a fairly large person.
I'm picturing it like a twin bunk bed.
I mean, like
prison cell, like
top bunk, bottom bunk.
Right.
That's what I'm
with
thinking.
the toilet over there.
That's about how it was.
Prison.
Right. And I mean, like, if I could just, I'll get in the layout in a sec. But I mean, like, the bed was about like this table.
What?
If I had to, yeah, maybe just like a little bit longer. Because I know, like, at that point, because I'm about like 6'1.5" at that point.
What are they trying to do to you people?
Well, I mean, like, break you. Like
That's what it sounds like.
But I mean, like, it pretty much was kind of like a prison layout from what I imagine. Luckily, I'm never there. But I'd say, like, I don't know, the table was probably about, I don't know, I think maybe 60 inches across, and I don't.
The bed?
Yeah, like my feet hung off of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And my shoulders, and like I know, like whenever I slept,
I wouldn't
my
have no
arms like
problem.
wrapped around the bed.
There's nothing worse than a bed too small for you and a schizophrenic guy within
Just
feet
talking.
of you.
Oh,
Just talk.
and I can't wait to get But anyway, so I wake up. I somehow managed to fall asleep. I wake up the next morning. Well, it was probably like around like afternoon. And I just kind of like, wake up and I look around and by myself and I'm like, all right, whatever. So like, let's fucking do the damn thing. And the way that it's laid out is that it's a big square with,
Kind of like a hospital floor?
yeah, I mean that's what it was. It's a ward of a hospital. So like, it's a big like you're just in your own like little square, right?
Right.
And there's like a little central hub where you go to get your medicine if you want anything. Like you have to go up to the window and things like that. The only clock in the whole fucking vicinity is right there.
Oh gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So if you want to see what time it is, you got to get up and walk. And so anyway, my room was like probably right at the corner, like the back left corner. So, well, I guess to try to describe this in terms of like on radio. So like you get through the doors, you can walk all the way straight back, right, and surpass the central hub that I was talking about.
Right.
You take a left, and then there's like that back hallway. Then you take a right, and then there's like sort of the I don't know. You get what I'm saying?
It's a little robot.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm doing So anyway, like I wake up and I just need some fucking water. So like I walk. This was my first encounter with my ward mates. So like I get up and like I don't see anybody down the first hallway, and I'm like, all right, good, because I wanted to just stay as far away from these people as I could, even though I was empathetic and I completely understood.
Yeah, you did.
And again, that's why I preface this by saying, I don't think less of these people, and truly my heart goes out to them. So then finally, like there was this one girl that was like walking down. She was like walking down like right towards me, and she was kind of like just shuffling her feet. And she looked up and she smiled at me, and I smiled and said hello, and she didn't say anything. She just smiled and just like tucked her head back down and kept walking. I was like, all right. And anyway, so I go and I got some water. I came back to my room, and luckily one of my saving graces, I didn't realize at the time, but I brought a book with me. I brought the first Game of Thrones
Game
book.
of Thrones book, baby.
Wow, that'll last a while.
That'll occupy some time.
I read it in 2 days. I ended up reading it in like 2 days. But
Well, yeah, if you have nothing going on, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
just
700-800 pages.
well, the big thing that they do with being in a psych ward is they do group therapy. They don't do one-on-one therapy.
Yeah, group.
They don't.
Yeah.
oh, this is epic.
Yeah, groups game.
Yeah.
Yes, group therapy means you get to see everybody and hear everybody.
Right.
Yes.
I didn't get a group. I went once, and then I was like, nah. But we'll get to that. But anyway, so I had already missed
It's
it.
an open group therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Or, yeah, open.
But honestly, it's one of the things that goes into your evaluation on whether or not they let you fucking leave, which I found out the hard way. But
Oh, because you weren't attending enough.
yeah. So
Well, man, you got to be cooperative.
I grabbed my book, and I went out in the hallway, and I was just trying to find a place like where I could have some privacy, just fucking read my book away from everybody.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I was reading in my room, but then my mans came back in, and he was talking to himself and
It's
stuff.
hard to read.
Yeah. So, anyway, I was, like, reading my book, and this is where we meet our first character of my time there. Because here's the thing. In order to find my morbid, fucked up sense of humor and all this, I had to give these people an identity.
Well, we do that in the gym. I mean,
Exactly.
we have nicknames and identities for people at the gym.
That's exactly what happened, and that's how I had to get through this. And I was like, I had to like, it was now literal. Did I know this was before I actually got to the point where I was like, all right, listen, I got to do something. I got to like formulate my own story out of this, or else I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. So anyway, but this was my first encounter with somebody whom would later be known as Agent Scully. Okay?
I was referred to on TikTok as Agent Scully's less muscular brother. Was that what they said?
Yeah.
What the fuck? I'm not an X-Files yet.
Well, I mean, they were making fun of me,
I didn't know that.
which I'm fine with. I'm good with
Right.
that. They were jealous because
I'm sure you found a way
I
to
went
own it,
I went,
Jeff.
I
He
went to
did.
their page and they were weak.
He
They were,
did.
they were
But go
worthless.
ahead.
You owned him. So anyway, Agent Scully was she was the socialite of the ward at Fairmont General Hospital.
Maybe not Agent Scully. Maybe the other guy. It was the guy. So
I
don't
can't
know.
remember his. I know, wasn't it Richard Gere in the movie?
No. Well, the show it was the other guy. In the show,
I don't know. You got me lost. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
Go on. Sorry.
so my first encounter with her, she was the first person I encountered outside of my roommate and the woman in the hallway who will later be referred to as Speed Racer. But
Yes, I love this.
so anyway, I was sitting there. There was like a little portion of like the wall in the doorway to where I could hide behind like the door. And I just propped my back up and like I was just like reading my book. And like I saw her, she was walking with this other guy whom would later be known as Romeo. And they just kept making their rounds. And I mean like
See, that's what they do to you. You have to do this to survive, but then they can use it against you as a crazy person.
right.
Right?
Oh no, the thing about it was like one thing that was hilarious was like once like I started like figuring this shit out and I was like I gotta get I'm gonna give it 2 days just because I want to get my medications right and just get the fuck out of here on like a good note with actually like get something out of this. So but I mean like eventually it got to the point to where I was, because I found out that they were actually evaluating whether or not they were going to let me go, which is when I found out that just because you check yourself in doesn't mean you can check yourself out. You subject yourself to psychiatric evaluation in which the physician has to be the one to release you. So you forfeit your right to check yourself out, even if you check yourself involuntarily, which is my thing that I stress to people.
Wow.
Yeah, people listen.
But no, I got to the point to where I was so conscious of where I was in my surroundings. I have a bad habit of like, kind of like whispering things to myself. But I mean, I was just
So
like,
you and your roommate were.
well, I mean, like, I'm just like if that's like, I don't know, I'll just sit there and like think about something to myself. I'll just be like, fuck.
And you were afraid to do that because
Yeah.
you were afraid people were watching and thinking you
Oh,
were
Because
crazy.
I do that
everything
too.
was-
Dude, I sit in my office during the day and I literally talk to it because
I do too.
I've had like people walk because you got to go by my office to go to the bathrooms. So I've had people that I work with walk by my office and go, like, "Did you say something? Like, what? Were you talking to me?" And I was like, "No, I was talking to myself."
But now, I mean, like, being like you are just like hyper focused and self aware, and you're like, man, I cannot give them one reason to keep me here longer than they have to, which in this case, they had no reason to, but anyway. No, so my first encounter was obviously with Speed Racer, just walking down the hallway. This is before I knew her as Speed Racer, because I just thought it was some, woman, some woman around, my age, just walking down the hallway, smiled, being friendly. And, but anyway, so I'm sitting there reading a book, and Agent Scully and Romeo are like making their rounds. It was probably because again, it's just a big fucking square. So people would just like walk around that shit. And anyway, so it was about their third time around. I'm sitting there reading Game of Thrones, and they stop and say something to me, and I see them stop, and I'm just like, fuck. All right, this is first contact. And she was like, do you like that book? And I said, yeah. I said, it's thus far it's proven to be, pretty good.
That's far.
She said, I read it yesterday. I said, oh, really? I said, well, that's impressive. And she said, yeah. And then she said, I own stock in that company. Because on the cover of it said,
Like an HBO acquitted show.
it had the HBO.
Right.
And I said, wait, what? She said, that company right there. I said, HBO. And then, like, I looked, I was like, oh, HBO. I was like, they have a lot of really good shows that I watched.
Yeah.
She said, yeah. So she just said, all right then. Then she just kept walking. I was like, oh, good. So anyway, later I walked back into my room, And then Buddy shows back up, my roommate.
Okay, your roommate.
Yep. And
Oh shoot! Sorry.
no, you're fine. So then, like, he asked me. He said, again, it made me feel like prison. He was like, "What are you in for?"
Oh no!
And I told him, I said, I told him, I go through clinical depression, and I'm just here trying to get like my meds regulated and stuff.
Right.
And then this is where I made a mistake because I already knew, but I said, just me trying to be friendly. I said, "What about you?"
Oh no!
Yeah, big mistake.
And he
I
was
can't
like,
wait to hear the answer to that.
Oh yeah. Well, this is how this guy gets his nickname. But he said, he said, I just hear the voices. You know?
Oh no!
He said, "You hear him too?" And I said, "No."
Oh, I thought you said you did.
You could have totally messed with it.
Oh,
You could have
man,
made
you
it
should've
so
told
much
me you
worse.
did.
Well, I said no.
Which would have been cruel, but it would have been
it would've
entertaining.
fucked. But I said no. I was like, "I'm sorry, man. I really don't." He said, "You don't hear him?" He said, "From the void." And I said, I looked at him. I said, "I'm sorry." He said, "The void." And I was like, "You're gonna have to enlighten me." He said, "That's where they come from. That's where they talk to me."
Oh my!
So all my stories about the void, and that's henceforth he was known as the Void, which later on to find out was a Canadian horror film about a hospital in which somebody heard voices.
Really?
Yes, because I went and checked on all these
Well,
things.
yeah, I would have too.
Yeah, and
Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
and
You said no. I
So-
thought you said you did.
no. So then I wasn't gonna tell him I heard because number
'Cause
one
then
I
it would-
don't.
Then it would have went.
And then he would have fucking said he was like, "Well, what the fuck? That guy hears him."
That is true.
But yeah.
Smart point.
Good point.
But
Good point.
Use it against him.
no,
Yeah.
like I said, 100% self-awareness at all times.
I think.
Well, I mean, like you just have such a heightened sense of things being there out of your.
That would be
element.
the bet. Now, maybe I'm crazy, but that would be the greatest place to go. This guy said that. You're listening to this guy.
That is true.
He's crazy. He's come over here. He talks to himself and he hears voices from the void, and he's going to say, "I said something."
Well, I mean,
He's crazy.
yeah, you
That's an easy sell,
right.
right?
But well, number one, so I'm just gonna break this down by character. We're gonna start with the Void. So the Void, like I said, that's when henceforth it became the Void, and the Void, he had this really bad habit of like he would talk to you, but then all of a sudden he would just like look up in like the right corner of his room, like
Oh no, man! I'm
Yeah.
out, bro. I'm running. I'm gonna.
But the thing is whenever he would start to talk to somebody, whenever they would speak back to him, his whole voice and his mannerisms would change. Kind of like off Split with James McAvoy.
Oh, my split person.
Oh, remember we watched that?
Did you
Yeah.
see?
Yes, you watched it. It was crazy.
Did you see
Yes.
Glass? Part 2
No.
with Samuel
what you're
Jackson and Bruce
talking about.
Willis.
We watched it several years
Watch
ago.
Glass.
Split
Glass is-
with the guy.
Yeah.
He was it was an amazing
Yeah,
movie.
But I know like the worst.
Split personalities, and he would kidnap people, right?
Watch Glass.
Yeah.
That's part 2 of it.
I don't remember.
But I
It
know
was
like
insane. Yeah, I'll show you and you'll remember.
But even like whenever he was talking to himself in his sleep, they would be different people almost having different conversations.
So you're saying he would have different personalities.
Yeah, and sometimes like they would be like really aggressive and stuff. That's why like the first night I was there, like he would like talk to himself, like and he would like kind of like raise his tone. Like I would just like kind of like, be like, "What the fuck?" And just kind of ready, like
Ready
if somebody touched me, I was about ready to just
Yeah,
Deck 'em.
it's good you're a bigger guy.
right.
You know what I mean? And there's nothing in there to kill you with, right?
Well, they make sure. Oh, well, that's another thing about the layouts of the rooms. That's part of the reason why there's no clocks on the walls. There's not. Everything's bolted to the floor, and instead of like having chairs, they had 2 desks in every room, and the chairs instead of being a chair, they're like this big round thing. It's like a big round. It's like a big like cylinder with like a round top that you sit on.
Oh, so there's no edges?
No, there's no edges. There's nothing sharp in the rooms. There's no edges. There's nothing that you can take off the walls. Whenever you're in there, they make you take off like any sort of strings that you have on your clothing, even your shoes. They make you turn over all strings. I was allowed to wear a watch eventually because I said I was
big time.
I was the man in there.
Gang, gang.
Yes.
anyway, yeah. So they're really careful about that. But
I
so,
wonder if fold a clock or like put like a thing around the clock to where you can just
One of those cages,
yeah.
like in junior high.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I always wondered about. But anyway, so when it comes to the void, like I said, my roomie, one thing that irritated me on a side note, he never flushed the fucking toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't expect him to do that, really.
Oh, it was fucking gross. I mean, eventually.
You mean even when he took a dump?
Oh yeah. Every time I walked in there, there was like a big old pile of
That's disgusting.
shit just looking up at me.
What?
Yes, it pissed me off. I was like, what the fuck?
You were scared to say anything, though, weren't you?
No, I mean, honestly, well, it got to
What
the
would
point.
have helped, really?
Well, I got to the point where I didn't spend any time in my room. I went to my reading room, which was actually I sought refuge.
I'm using the
I
bathroom
spent
on this
most
side.
of my time in the padded room.
What?
Yes, because it got to the point
Do
where.
you voluntarily check yourself in there?
Well, here's what I said. I walked up to the lady at the front office, like right in the middle of everything. I just said, listen, I need somewhere I can get some fucking peace and quiet. I just want to read my book, and my guy's just talking to himself nonstop. Where can I go? I was like, can I just go to like the therapy room after they close it down? Because all the nurses, they knew, like, they're like, you shouldn't be here. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's part of the reason, like part of the only reason I got out. So they're like, we can let you have the padded room unless we need you to turn it over in case somebody needs it. I say gladly if the need arises. One thing about padded rooms I can tell you, they're not very soft.
Really?
No,
The walls aren't soft?
hard as a fucking rock. They got maybe like 2 centimeters of give, but there was like they told me I could sleep in there, but there's like a mattress on the floor with like a pillow and a blanket, and they're like, you can sleep in here if you want. I said, I'm not fucking sleeping on that shit, because the whole time I walked in there, I thought about all the body fluids around there.
Yeah.
Oh no, but that's where I sought my refuge. But anyway, no. The other things with like the void that came about were one, like some of the specific things he would like say to himself was he randomly asked himself one time, he's like, "Did you just call me a pedophile?" And I was like reading my book in my room at that point, and I just like perked up and looked at him. I said, "No." He said, "No, I wasn't talking to you." And then like he proceeded to have a conversation with himself, in which I excused myself to my reading room. But but then like the other thing that he said was there was one time where he walked in, because I would do push-ups and stuff in my room every day just to have some sort of sense of physical fitness, and he asked me, he said, "Let me ask you a question." He said, "Do you think it's possible to hear somebody drop something on the other side of this of this hospital?" And I said, "This hospital?" I was like, "No, maybe the other side, like this wing of the hospital, because the acoustics are terrible, because I hear people fucking yelling and
Right,
screaming all
yeah.
night." But anyway,
Oh, that would be a little unsettling.
right. But now my last thing about the void was I left him a bunch of like toiletries and stuff just because I really felt sorry for him.
Aw.
And because I know like he was really upset that they weren't going to let him leave on Black Friday, because he said that he was so poor that the only time he was going to be able to afford anything nice was on Black Friday. So I left him a bunch of things, and I even offered to leave him my book, but he didn't accept it. But he took my toiletries. But now in terms of like Agent Scully though, like I said, the first encounter I had with her was that she said that she had read the book that I was reading.
She owns stock in the company.
She was stock on HBO. And then
You should have married her, bro.
This is probably the best part.
she was, like those troll dolls?
Yeah. With the
Yeah.
wild hair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what she looked like.
Oh.
She had red hair, like
It's my favorite color.
yeah. And she was wearing like these like striped socks that were black and purple almost every day.
High,
Yeah.
sexy, high socks.
No, dude, there was nothing about her that was sexy, Hefe. But,
Trying to help you. I'm trying to get some goodness out of this.
oh no. But no, she
She has many other talents.
But no, like, part of the reason why she became Agent Scully was this. She's one of the most well-accomplished people I've ever met in my entire life, based on her credentials that she told me about. So, like, one day, like, we were up at, like, the line where the central hub is, where you had to go to get everything. And I was standing there, and she was like, what do you do? And I was like, she said, pro wrestler? I said, no. I was like, no. I'm actually kind of a law student on hiatus. And she said, oh, yeah. She said, I'm prosecuting attorney. I looked at her. I said, oh, really? I said, where'd you go to law school? She said, she looked at me and she looked at me and she said, Fairmont State? And I looked at her and I was just like, because that's obviously there's only one law school in West Virginia. She said, Marshall? And then I looked at her again. She said, WVU? And I was like, oh, yeah.
WVU's the only law school.
I was like, that's a pretty good law school.
That's freaking great.
But anyway, so I established that she was a prosecuting attorney. So then, like, another night when I was in my reading room, because I heard everything that went on, because the padded room was right in front of the nursing station, which was the central hub of everything. And she was pissed off about something. And she said, whenever I get, like, she ended up saying, like, whenever I get out of here, she said, you guys are in a world of trouble. She said, I'll work for the FBI in Clarksburg. And thus forward, she became known as Agent Scully. And then the last of her credentials were, whenever I was getting ready to leave, I was getting all my books and, like, getting ready to leave because I was being released.
Right.
And she said, do you read a lot? And I said, yeah. She said, I do too. She said, I'm a doctor. I graduated from Marshall Medical School. And I said, well, I'll be goddamn.
A lawyer and a prosecuting attorney and a doctor.
Exactly.
And
an FBI agent.
And owns stock at HBO.
Right.
This is an amazing woman.
Exactly.
Wow,
Absolutely.
how did you let her go?
We should break her out.
Honestly, yeah. Really, honestly. But here's the thing.
If you're Betty Mann, though, do you think she's definitely still there?
Oh, yeah. She was a regular. Everybody knew her by her name.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, but then...
How old was she? If you're guessing.
Probably mid to late 30s.
It makes me sad though. Really.
Oh, it is, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the one thing I kept in mind. I was like, these people actually need help.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. God, I just can't imagine.
But no, Speed Racer, we'll get to her next, because like I said, she was my first contact. She became Speed Racer just because...
Now, that's the one that you met in the hallway where she looked up at you and just looked right back down?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, the thing was, because as I was sitting there, like I said, I noticed that Agent Scully and the guy who would be later known as Romeo were walking in, the circle. But so was Speed Racer. She was just going the opposite direction. But she was just trudging her feet. And, she would just, always look down. And later on, like I said, I wish I could reenact it for you. Because, like I said...
She's a foot shuffler, you
Yeah.
said? Okay.
But, she would, whisper things to herself. And then she would just, have this, really just kind of, ominous laugh. Tee. You know what I mean?
Oh.
But I mean, literally, though, nonstop, from the time, she woke up until... They would have to give her things to, get her to sleep.
Oh.
And I mean, sometimes she'd wake up in the middle of the night, and one time they actually woke her up, and she would just lost her fucking mind.
Mm.
So yeah, that was Speed Racer. She just, from the time she woke up till the time she went to sleep, she was just walking around.
That's why you called her Speed Racer. She just wouldn't stop.
Right.
Oh.
But then Romeo was just some guy. I could tell he was and I was friendly to everybody. If they spoke to me, I spoke back. I'd always say hello and acknowledge them in the hallway.
Oh, yeah.
But Romeo, I could tell that he was obviously a member of the homosexual community.
Okay.
And I felt like he had taken a liking to me.
Oh, as well.
Yeah.
That seems to be a common,
That is a common
theme
thing,
that goes around. But
Gang.
But anyway, so I was in my reading room, and like he was reading some sort of romance novel, and he was like reading it like obnoxiously loud, and
He was reading it out loud.
He was
Yes.
a member of that.
and then like he couldn't tell that I noticed, but he kept like peeking inside the room. Just, I'm like, obviously I'm in there, bro. So finally, I walked outside and I said, "Hey, man," I was like, "I'm really, I'm not trying to be rude, but if you're gonna read aloud, do you mind doing it somewhere else? That way I can focus on reading because I just can't read with all the distractions." And he just kind of looked at me and just I don't know, snorted and then just walked off. And that was really my only encounter with him.
Oh gosh.
I know, but no, I don't know. Like some of the other ones in between that, because I want to wait till Jeff gets back to talk about the Apache.
The Apache?
Yeah, he was my favorite. But no, like some of the other people, like you were talking about having different wings of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was in there with a lot of people that were drug addicted, and it ended up to the point to where I spent almost all my time in that padded room.
Mm-hmm.
I would just stay there almost 24 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I would hear they had 2 payphones. That was their only contact with people.
Yeah, so could you make calls throughout the day?
Yeah.
However many times you wanted to, really?
Yeah, they had payphones, and you just have to dial out and call. Luckily, my parents drove to Fairmont every day to check on me. And that's how eventually I told Chaz and stuff, everybody that I was, I only told 3 people this situation that I trusted. But, no, I heard a lot of really, really heartbreaking things. I heard, people that were, there were a lot of, drug addicts that were getting ready to lose their kids and things like that. And
That's something I'll clarify too. You were very empathetic and sympathetic
I was.
about.
Like I said, I'm not making fun of you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know
what's
you're
going
not.
on, yeah.
I know you're not.
You really were. Even when you told me the story, you're like, I know I got stuff I'm dealing with. You're like, but these people really have a really.
And that's one thing that helped me realize the difference between mild depression and actual mental illness.
I still can't believe they put everybody in the same thing. Like you would think they would put people with depression, anxiety, or some panic attacks in one area together, and then those with schizophrenia, multiple what is it? The multiple personalities,
Right.
things like that in a different area that's more high alert, more high care.
Right.
No,
and
that's just
state run.
It's just not
right.
right. It's
Which,
just not
and
right.
At a hospital that just filed bankruptcy 2 weeks ago.
Oh, great.
That's going under Fairmont. But now that Jeff's back, I can talk about my favorite one there.
The Apache. What'd you call it?
The Apache.
Apache. The Apache we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the Apache.
Okay, so he would have been the equivalent of my chief in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay.
Okay, the big guy. And so anyway, I walked up one night. Well, number one, one night I was in there in my reading room, which I spent most of my time, and I heard somebody start yelling, 5-0, 5-0. Everybody get back to your room, hide, 5-0. And so I peeked outside.
Yeah.
I peeked.
Oh, okay.
I peeked outside and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" 5-0, and he just kept screaming. 5-0, 5-0. And anyway, I peeked outside and I see this guy looking like fucking Cousin Eddie.
Yes.
Just wearing a bathrobe, a white beater, and fucking boxers.
Living his best life.
Just with an older guy, probably in his 50s, 60s,
and he was a patient.
Yeah, and so finally, when things, he was still out in the hallway, just kind of meandering. After he stopped screaming 5-0, and I was wearing a grunt style shirt, which is like a veteran-owned company, and I'm not a veteran, but it was like a.
He thinks you are.
Yeah. It was like a red, white, and blue, Spartan helmet.
Right.
And I walked up and got something. They would give me water by almost like a fucking bucket because they could tell that I didn't want to be out in the open to subject myself to seeing the people that really needed to be there. because they could tell it made me somewhat uncomfortable. So all of a sudden, in his bathrobe, he just made a beeline right towards me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I mean, like, listen, I'm a fairly large human. This guy he was 2 inches taller than me, probably 20 pounds heavier.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I don't know if I remember.
And I mean, like, so, like, I kind of put my right foot, like, back, and, like, I, like, kind of, like, cocked
Brace
up.
yourself, yeah.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, he stuck his hand out. He said, "Thank you for your service."
Oh.
And I was so taken back. I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, "You're welcome," and just shook his hand. And then all of a sudden, like, one of the nurses came and grabbed him. They're like, "All right, come on, Robert, let's get back to your room." And then that's when he started screaming. He said, "I used to fly Apache helicopters. You know the Apaches?" He said, "The ones with all the rockets and shit." He said, "I flew them. And that's why he became the Apache."
Oh.
And,
5050.
that was
That's amazing.
those were the characters I encountered. That, and then some guy named Nipples that he kept coming up to the nursing station at like 3. I assumed it was like early hours in the morning because I felt like anvils were attached to my fucking eyes. And he kept asking for stuff to eat, and he's like, "Can you call the doctor? My nipples hurt. I feel like there's something coming out of them."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
So that was my time in the nut house.
Oh gosh.
The Apache.
The Apache.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. It's like,
Oh
welcome,
goodness.
pal.
Oh.
But that was really about it.
Wow.
They weren't gonna let me go. Actually, I ended up they were gonna let me go because of the holiday season. I never actually got to meet with the head of the department because he wasn't fucking there. Well, like it was my fault.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, but luckily, the only reason why I was able to get released were because, like, listen, like the nurses and the people on staff, they said if you keep this guy here, he's actually gonna have a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Like a deeply rooted
I
problem.
feel so bad laughing at that.
I read the entire game. I read the first Game of Thrones book in 2 days.
That's a lot. Dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
'Cause
That's
in-
nuts.
Oh, I
That
know,
would
it's-
take
Well, I
me
had to keep-
forever.
And I finished.
No, I
3
get
of them
it.
in a
I had to
summer.
keep my mind engaged.
I get it because when I've before and after I spent a summer in Africa.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh.
I've never read that much in my life. Like I didn't realize I could read a whole book.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine.
And that's all they did.
I don't know how
It's
the Lord did
because
that, man.
you didn't have any entertainment.
I don't know how the Lord you did
Dude.
that.
So we had books that we would get from the embassy.
No TV, right?
No,
Yeah.
we had TV, but it was at the embassy, and I remember it was the NBA Finals in '96, '97. So it was Jordan, but it was delayed.
No, shit.
You know what I mean? So it was like we were watching it, and it was over.
Right.
But
3 months.
Well, you didn't know who
for
won.
months, it was like
2 months.
we were
2 months,
watching
right?
it. Yeah, we were watching it in July, and it happened in June. But I mean, you'd have to go to the embassy and sit and watch it like on a tape, right?
Jeez.
They were dating still and didn't even have any contact for 3
That'd be
months.
3
rough.
months.
Well,
I don't
it was
think you
quite
can do
3
that
months.
nowadays.
No, it wasn't 3
No,
months.
now
it
you
was
could.
like a month and a half.
We
But
had to
still,
write letters, and like
What?
his mom would talk to him, and then she would call me and say, "I talked to Jeff today. He's doing fine." Like,
You said you worked like 2 jobs, didn't you?
oh, I worked 3 jobs actually that summer.
Oh, by the way, the only reason I didn't go to group was the one time I went, they were making fucking ceramics, and I said, I'm not doing this shit.
I get that.
Yeah, I was like, how the fuck is this gonna? All right, but yeah, anyway, that's all.
But I mean, the being over there and just reading and reading and reading, it's like distracting from like because if there's nothing to do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we did stuff like we would have like trips where we'd go and we'd vaccinate people, kids and stuff,
Right.
and visit villages. But there were days where it was like when you don't have any phone. Like now, we didn't have phones then,
No,
Right.
not cell phones.
but we had TV and we had video games. Well, over there, it was like, and you know what's crazy though? Like we grew up here thinking, oh, their kids won't do as well in life because they don't have our education system. Guess what they are? Freaking ridiculously successful because all they did is read and read and read and read.
Absolutely.
And guess what
It's quite
now?
the opposite.
My cousin who didn't go to any school other than like over there where it was like homeschool basically, but it was
Or
but they read on their free time. That was their entertainment, so they're feeding their brains. He's a neuroscientist. He went to Yale. I mean,
I believe it.
And we're thinking growing up, it's like, oh, poor him. He's over in Africa. He's not getting an education.
Dude, I'm telling you this. We are not living the way that we're meant to live as humans.
No.
Not here. It just, I mean, everything's just a fucking distraction, man. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah,
I mean, like, it's, plus, like, when you factor in, like, things being, like, so convenient, what they are. I mean, like, for fuck's sake, man. Now you can have people from 7-Eleven come and bring you beer.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty awesome.
It's awesome. Oh, hell yeah, it's great. We don't get it out where I live. But I mean, like, we don't, it's completely taken away, like, people's, like, drive, ambition, that hunter-killer mentality that, like, you know.
That you're supposed to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that you were built to have. Like, that you're, like, I mean, evolutionarily, we're supposed to be.
Bro, we are built to just, like, walk miles a day, hunt, kill, provide, gather, all this stuff, and like we just don't anymore just because we don't fucking have to. You want to talk about obesity?
Yeah, I know.
Well, I was talking to a guy the other day who was talking about, we were having a conversation about his sex life. It's not very good with his wife, okay?
Right.
And you know why? Because the hunt. He's not in the hunt because guess what? If she doesn't show interest,
He just has to go on Pornhub.
he gets on Pornhub and beats off.
Absolutely.
And he's fine, right?
And
instead of letting it build, and he has to do things he normally. And people think, oh, that's bad. You're horny, so you're doing nice things for your wife and you're making her. No, that's how nature built us.
Absolutely.
Is you have to have drive, and to have drive, you have to have desires.
Absolutely right.
And if you have those desires, you will do things for someone you care about and you want to be with because you're physically attracted to them.
Right.
Rather than just like, hey, let's hook up. And she's like, I freaking had a long day. I'm burnt. I had to come home and then I had to deal with a bill collector and then I had to cook dinner. And I don't want to. Instead of, and he's like, fine, cool.
I gotta go use the bathroom really quick.
Yeah.
I gotta take a shower.
I got a phone, literally. Like I can sit I can sit in here and be done in 2 minutes. So then he kills that desire to like attack and chase and do whatever it takes to conquer it.
That's absolutely.
And then he goes months and months and months without really having any significant.
Okay, that reason right there alone, that's why I don't watch porn. There have been so many people, so many studies done that talk about, especially now in the age where all these fucking kids have an iPhone with access to the internet. I mean, like, it's completely taken away their drive, man. We're talking about things like chivalry and like masculinity and things like becoming like long forgotten. I mean, that's part of it.
It is.
And I mean, it's just that convenience. And I mean, no, that right there alone. I mean, like that's why I personally like I choose not to hit Pornhub up and all this other shit. I mean, like, cause again, it takes that part away from you.
There's then the other side though, where it can keep you from making some mistakes too. Like like beat it and then think.
The post-nut clarity.
Post-nut clarity.
Right.
So there's two sides to that, but if you're in a
get it.
relation with someone and you're chasing them, you want to be able to have that build up to so that you're like, you know what I'm saying? But then
No,
if
please
you're not,
explain
if you're
more.
not,
I'm not following
here you go. But if you're like.
I love whoever posted this. I'm sorry.
This, did Angie do that?
I did that, yeah.
Of course she did.
It's great. It's such a variety.
He gave me these.
It's such a variety.
Did you see that?
It's such a variety. It's such a variety.
It's on Snapchat.
But literally, if you are gonna make a bad decision, like some toxic relationship where you like don't need to be with that person as a dude, but you're like, God, I'm so freaking horny, and she's totally down with the booty call. Clear your mind, and then decide if you want to go over and hook up.
With the
Right? Because I guarantee if you clear your mind, which means you need to ejaculate. That's how you clear your
I
mind.
wish some of these guys would clear their mind before they slide in my DMs.
Oh, they trust me. They've cleared their mind to your page.
No,
Yeah.
I need them to
They
clear their
have
mind. And
I'm sure-
multiple times.
Probably. Honestly, really, the
Robbie?
question.
14%er.
The what?
14%. Oh, he has. You have no idea how many children you've killed
Oh, that's disgusting.
in your name.
They call his comforter is known as the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. But
Oh, gross.
God damn, man.
That's gross.
That's facts. That's facts.
That's
We
so
all know that's
nasty.
facts.
Angie, every time like one of like my female friends are like, God, I got a dick pic. I'm like, listen,
Oh.
I was like, I just want to say, one of my close friends is the fucking dick pic veteran. Just the dick pic veteran from Nam. Just shell shocked.
From Nam.
She knows every shape, size, color,
Oh.
deformity, curve,
Yeah.
She's
hair.
Why
just
did,
an encyclopedia. Her phone is an encyclopedia of dick
if I
pics.
saved
It's
them?
funny when she sends them to me and she goes, "That's not a bad one, though, right?"
Jeff made a joke. Wait, who are we talking to? And you're
So
like,
bad.
we have like one of those like crime scene like
Yeah,
posters,
like the
and like
the,
you
the
like have the
strings,
strings to the
like,
thing.
to
Yeah,
each one. Like we
one of
have a
those.
board.
Like
Like-
this one belongs to the.
Because that's what I said on one podcast. I was like, "Hey guys, if you're listening to this, just to get tips on how to get to her, then I've seen all your dicks. I've seen them. She screenshots them. She sends them to me. She laughs. We joke about them. We joke about the little like nick you have on your head. Like we. The funny thing is though, and that brings up another subject, with women especially, like men. Like you can Google like how to win a woman, or how to steal a married
boy.
woman. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The book on it, like how to get to emotionally, how to get to them. How to get to them. Well, today is a prime day to do that because you can watch their social media forever.
Oh yeah.
And people like her, they get on a podcast, they do their IG stories, and they reveal their favorite things.
Not even thinking about it. Like
They
not
reveal
even thinking what you're doing.
what's important to them. They reveal like everything
Themselves.
Yeah.
themselves, like the true themselves, and then somebody can just say, "Note taken."
Yellow's her
That's
favorite
And
been
then
color.
they can plant that.
Yeah.
And then they can get in your head subconsciously and then
Okay, listen.
slowly, patiently eat away at you where you think that they're noticing things that of course they're noticing because they want to
It's
get to
there.
you. Right?
Yeah.
You put it out there. You've
Yeah.
given them the answer to the test. And then
Right.
so it's like if you want to be that guy or that girl,
That's being a goddamn sociopath.
yes.
Karate chop. That's exactly what she would do.
Oh, that's right. Karate chop. Remember?
Right, yeah, karate
Yeah.
chop. But seriously, like, is
No.
that not like
Absolutely, it's
whack?
fucked.
It's fucked. Like it's like you to be to that level is not genuine, and to go to that level with anybody like that you would think that has a life. Like if it's like because guys slide into her DM and try shit all the time.
Right.
So you're like, okay, wait, I've seen her page. I'll list her podcast. Oh, there's another dude on it that she kind of is into. Like she kind of has a life with. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like they kind of have
like her
children.
husband.
Yeah, but I'm still gonna like formulate a plan and like totally try to emotionally manipulate her.
She kind of has a life, but
You know, that's the thing. I think
But you know,
it's-
like my thing about it is with people that would do that. So, like, let's just say they're just like, oh, I just like this person so much, I had to just completely reinvent myself and be somebody completely different to chase after her. So, like, what the fuck, man? Like, what's your MO? What is your MO?
well, it's going to come to what it really is in the end,
Right.
right? It's going to be this person who they are. They had to get the win.
But see, like, my thing is just like, this is what I struggle with. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. People like that, people that act like on impulse, it really just frustrates me. And it honestly pisses me off to a degree.
Right.
Because I'm just like, what the fuck? Why are you not thinking about things full scope? Because
Sure.
that's what life is. Like, don't be a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? So you're just like, oh, hey, let me just subscribe to something really quick on a fucking knee-jerk impulse. And, you know, in this case, being a male, just trying to portray himself as something that he's not based on the interest that he sees on available platforms. I'm just like, why? What's your goal? So eventually you're going to have to go back to being yourself, right? And then my question is, do you even know who the fuck you are? Or do you not like who you are, so that way you're trying to become this other person, and you feel like you'll get some sort of sense of fulfillment in being with this person whom you've learned about and studied so adamantly, which, when you get down to it, it's just downright fucking creepy. What's the goal?
But you got to go back to yourself. You got to go to your default eventually.
I think it's just people nowadays, they just don't know who they are.
They don't, but they're going to go to the default, which is a damaged person, and that, in some senses, it's not their fault, because people like mental illness or whatever it may be, they're damaged. It's not right, fuck them, but for what they're doing, in that sense, but they're screwed.
Right.
But they're damaging other people's lives at that point.
Right. It's just like, do you really not have any sort of compass, creed, anything to adhere to at that point? What the fuck has your whole life been? Have you just been under a rock? Were you just that guy on Madden that somebody created? Height 5'9", weight 187. Like, who the fuck are you, bro? Like, what do you do? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? What are things that are definitive to your character? Which I know, like, right now, like,
Well, character's absent with those people.
absolutely, I agree with that.
Character is not a thing in their
Right.
life. It's not. Nobody's instilled character in them.
But I mean, like, I know, like, right now, like, I'm kind of like fixated on, and I mean, again, like, being in the situation I was in, I mean, like, I was like kind of like, it was my fault. I'd take full responsibility for it, but I mean, like, I was kind of taken advantage of by like a woman that did something similar in law school, which is why, again, I strongly encourage anybody who's listening, stay away from female and male law students and attorneys, because they will. Because again, that's. I mean, there's nobody that knows how to bend and manipulate things to fit their own narrative. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Except for
it's
me.
kind of what. Except for you're the one law
Yes.
student.
Right.
The one exception.
Which is why I get taken advantage of, and I'm the fuck. I always told people, I'm like, you might as well just shove a stick up my ass and cover me in a wrapper, because I'm a sucker. But anyway,
That's great.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
but no, it is a problem, and honestly, it's one thing that Chaz and I talk about nowadays. It's just, you know, you really, when you find people that are just like that are actually like genuine,
Mm-hmm.
you just hold on to it, man. Because I mean, like, it's just so hard to find.
It is hard to find. It is
Yeah.
hard to find real people
Yeah.
Because
that you can connect
yeah,
with.
like you got people that love you and stuff like that, but I don't believe are necessarily like genuine. Like you can find people that even in like, and I even tell him like even how he's been with me. Like he's been in like his darkest times, and he'll still ask me, like he'll still tell me he's proud of me for how I'm doing in school. He's happy for me. He's cheering for me, and like he may not necessarily be doing what he wants to be doing or be doing very well mentally at that state point, but he'll
But it's
still,
not about him.
it's not about him. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's very few people like that. Even people that love you and care about you. It's just we're so self-natured. You know what I mean? Where we're
Well,
just,
yeah, everybody's egocentric.
everybody's egocentric, like
Yeah.
you said. Yes,
Right.
But like, very few people like that are actually really like. They're happy for you when it's convenient for them or when they can measure up to you or whatever. But very few are whenever like. Maybe they don't have something going on that they would like to have or something like that. You know what I mean? And we've all been there, whatever.
Yeah.
But you very seldom do you find very genuine people and that are basically want you to even do better than what you want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that are happy for you,
Just
and
for- yeah.
they're about you, and that's like when you get married. Like if you're a like when we got married, it's we had a Christian marriage, the biblical thing, whatever. It's like that's what that teaches. Is it's once you commit to that, you now have committed yourself to not be for yourself anymore.
Exactly.
You're there to give all of yourself and sacrifice what you are for the other party, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what keeps it going. Is that both of you sacrifice yourself. That doesn't mean the other person can take advantage of you. That doesn't mean the other person gets to say, you just gave up yourself, so you have to do this.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me.
of course.
That would not be both parties giving up their self.
Yeah.
It's like you're always thinking of the other party or empathizing with the other party. You know what I mean? And empathy
Right.
is such a huge part of a relationship.
That's part of the fucking
Not just
problem with
marriage,
just humans as
but friendships. It's like you got to empathize. Like even if you don't agree completely, you got to say, okay, well, I see your point. Like even though I don't totally, I think you're a little overboard on that. But that's you, man.
Right.
That's how you feel. So
complete and thorough
I respect
understanding.
that.
Well, and that's the thing. I know, like, when you get to people being genuine, and the other thing truly is originality. And then third, all these things are equal, but I mean empathy, because that seems like to be the one thing that's lacking today with people is just empathy. And it's a fucking problem, man. It really is. And I think it's just because like we've all become just like so
Selfish?
self-serving and just and I mean that's dude, selfishness. I mean that's really the root of all of it.
That is
and
100%.
you're
The
just
problem is selfishness hurts you.
yes,
And I think that's what we don't understand is like being really selfish hurts you.
absolutely. And again, it all goes back to like looking at things full scope.
Yeah.
Full scope.
Right.
And I know, like, part of, like, being selfishness is, part of selfishness is, okay, so you go through a breakup, and you sit there, and you just fucking lay into somebody, and you exploit every single weakness that they have based on things that they confided in you with. It might feel good at the time,
But it's a big time betrayal.
but honestly, you're right. Because at the end of the day, though, it's going to come back to you, and you're just like, man, why? Just a short sense of gratification in telling somebody, just to put somebody down based on things they shared with me in confidence. And now, like, I sit here and I realize I'm the fucking asshole for that short, brief moment of gratification.
Right. It felt great.
Yeah.
And it's satisfying, but
And it might even
you've betrayed yourself.
Right.
Because that person, even if you're gone, even if you're not even with that person anymore, even if things didn't work out, in that segment of time, you committed to being genuine, right?
Right.
So you got to leave it in that space, and you got to be committed to that. Okay, well, I'm not going to use that against that person, or I'm not going to maybe I'm not going to communicate with that person, or not like that person even.
Right.
But
Another thing that me and him had talked about, and then me and my friend Andrew talked about too, which I don't know if it's necessarily, I'm not calling you guys old in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying for like our generation and like your guys' generation, a lot of me and him had talked about it, and then me and Andrew have. Don't know if people that are a little bit older do that as well, or is it's bad. But now, like I think in our age group, and especially like your oldest daughter's probably generation, maybe even your middle daughters, it's like honesty is like especially when it comes to relationships or whatever your relationship is categorized as, whether it's just
Right.
I don't know if you want to call it a hookup, if you're together, if you're dating, whatever. Like one of my friends was telling me that he had been texting and talking to this girl, and then they went out a couple times, but then he had been honest and told her what he wanted out of her, what he was seeking out of it.
sure,
And she never
reciprocated.
or actually said what she was looking at, but just ghosted after they hung out and did whatever they did.
It's all about transparency.
Yeah, and me and him's even talking about just being honest about.
Well, that's because being like a genuine, decent person.
But it's just now it's like just being honest is like the weird it's like weird to be honest almost,
And-
or it's look, you know, you kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like people know how to respond to honesty. Like, even you may not want to hear it, but at least they're being upfront about. Like my other friend was saying about what he was looking into or what he was seeking or wanting in the whatever type of relationship that they had, and they didn't voice that they agreed or disagreed with it, but they went along with it and then just ghosted.
Bro, here's the thing that kills me, and honestly, it's most present with people, Chaz, like our age.
It's definitely our age.
And I mean,
really
like
bad,
people
yeah.
just millennials.
Right.
Yeah, it's
man,
definitely our age a lot.
People just fucking shy away from the tough conversation,
Yeah.
the things that are just difficult as trials and tribulations and adversity. And I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And that's like one thing I've learned, man. I mean, it's just like you can sit there and pretend it's not there. It's gonna be sitting there waiting on you. And guess what?
It's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna send you the goddamn psych ward with the Apache.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the thing with our age group, and I don't know, maybe it's not our age group. Maybe it's just our relationship. We have difficult conversations.
Well, you know how to work through them.
That's all it's all about.
You know how to
And,
work through
and
them.
it sucks, right?
yeah, of course it
you
sucks.
take the shot right in the nose and it hurts and your eyes water and you freaking can't breathe. But then you go, okay, I can breathe again. And we got to talk about it.
How do
gotta
we fix it?
Figure it out. Are we going to fight this out? Are we going to fight this out together? Are we going to, what's going to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Okay, it's real. It happened.
Mhm.
All right. What's happening now? What's the plan? What's the path?
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of
But it-
avoiding it and
And living a lie.
living a lie and trying to just pretend.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
and I don't know if that's an age thing or just a
I'd say it is. It's so bad. Like it's just,
Bro,
it's
I mean,
just, it's come to the point to where it's like honesty's like weird. It's just weird. People think it's you know, I get what I'm saying.
I don't know if it's an age thing though. Really, I think it's a. I don't know that it is an age thing because I can think of a lot of people our age that waver on that side.
true.
Like being
I
upfront
agree.
is weird.
Yeah, like
You
I.
think-
I,
I don't
have
think
a,
people
I have-
want to
weird.
deal with shit.
No,
I
I'm
think
an upfront
60
person.
I think
You
it's
think it's weird?
Listen, 60% of marriages don't last.
Oh, I believe that.
big facts.
It's,
I'm not even talking-
It's the truth. But the thing is why don't they last? Because people don't face shit.
But I'm not even talking about marriage. I'm just talking right now. If Chaz did something to piss me off, I'm gonna call him out on it. I'm gonna be like, "Look, dude, you hurt my feelings," and we're gonna talk about it. Probably over coffee.
See, to me,
and then we're gonna be fine. You know, it's gonna be fine.
But to
Like,
me,
it's
that's
gonna
a
be on-
genuine love and friendship, and that's the thing. People, that's where if you don't do what you said you're going to do, to me, that's where the separation happens.
Right, but I'm just saying,
in
I
your
don't think
relationship.
it's necessarily a generational
You're
thing.
saying it can happen
I think
at
it's-
any level.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a kind of a. I don't think it's a generational thing.
Because I haven't ran into the problem, but I've been told by he's ran into that problem, and then my other friends ran into that problem, and it's just like they've been upfront about what they're looking for out of whatever it is, whether it's a long-term thing, whether it's a short-term thing, whatever it may be, and the other person doesn't disagree with it, doesn't agree with it, but just kind of rolls with it, and then just whenever they feel it's necessary, they just
Disappear.
disappear. That's exactly right. Just, and then whenever like
Well, I think people just maybe it's just a fact that people are uncomfortable.
I really honestly don't think it's a generational thing. I think it's
No, I
just
don't
a
either.
thing of this day, no
But
matter what age you are.
if they are uncomfortable, I mean, is it? I don't know. Say is it right or is it wrong? Like, do you think those people owe the decency to let the other person know, like, what they're?
Yes.
I mean, it's their choice to share.
Absolutely.
I think it
Absolutely.
is.
But just because they owe the decency doesn't mean that they will give that because it might be uncomfortable.
right.
Yeah.
And
That's
they
why I'm
may
saying I don't think.
They may avoid. No, maybe they know they need to give that decency. Maybe they need to know that they need to say, "Hey, here's where we stand." But God, they don't want to deal with the repercussions.
And that's why I feel like people end up hating people like that. Like, I'm not saying it's a reason to hate somebody, but like, my friend was really mad over that. Like, he's like, "You're not down with it? Bet. Just let me know." You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, I
But
won't hate you.
don't leave me hanging.
Yeah, don't leave me hanging.
Yeah,
just have the decency of me and say just to be upfront about it. Just if you don't tell me, then I'm just going to automatically assume. I'd rather just know straight up and you just be straightforward, like you said about
Oh,
the
girl, that
the girl.
yeah.
That, like you said,
That's exactly.
and
why.
he was upset about it. He was, but he said, you know
I was
what?
pissed.
But he said, I appreciate her being straight up about it.
Well, really, I was pissed just because
Well, yeah, you can't fault.
No.
At the end of the day, you gotta sit down and go, wow, she told me exactly how she felt, and whether I want to accept it or believe it.
Bro, what it all came down to was this, Hefe. And honestly, this is the best way I can describe it. Man, be authentically you. Be authentically you.
Yeah.
Regardless. Whether or not it's just you by yourself, you with the people that you love and care about, you with strangers, man. Like, be authentically you, man. I mean, like, yeah, honestly, here's the thing. If you can be you and be with, and do something that's dishonest and wrong, if you can live with that, then, I mean, hey, fuck it, Honestly, like, one of the people that I'm closest to and I love to death, that person, I'm not going to say he or she because I feel like that'll give it away. But I mean, like, man, that's one thing that they can do really well. And honestly, it's been sometimes where I've been the victim of it. But you know what? I appreciate it. And since we've both been able to look at it and own up to it, well, I didn't have shit to own up to. They did. But it's really helped the dynamic of what we have. So I mean, like, but
Well,
if
I'm going to say that if somebody has the ability to do something that is wrong and painful and hurtful, fuck that. I don't care if you own up to it. It's fucking wrong.
it is
You need to own it.
right.
I don't care.
No,
It's wrong. So fuck that. It's wrong.
No, I completely
Own up to it, and whether you say, "Oh, I'm doing this and it's wrong," well, you know what?
You're doing it. At
You're
somebody
a
else's.
shitty person.
I agree with that.
Unless you repent, unless you say it's wrong and I'm going to correct that behavior.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm.
And if
saying.
you correct that behavior, you're a freaking hero.
Right.
You're an amazing person because everybody makes mistakes.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Just let me
has
hear from you.
problems.
Just let me hear from you.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Just let me hear from you.
But
Own that shit.
But to act like you're owning it and you continue to have bad behavior and you think you're going to be rewarded because you get to say, yeah, I do horrible things, but that's who I am and I own
Right.
it. No, that's not okay.
No. Well, actually, all right. So let me just.
You know what I mean?
That was.
And I don't know if that's the person, but I'm just trying to clarify from like my standpoint of, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not going to accept that.
Honestly, like, my thing is just like being authentically you, and you're right, because honestly now.
Because if you're authentically a horrible person and you're doing horrible things, you're hurting
Right.
people. Yeah, I don't.
But if you're authentically you, then, like, honestly, I guess what I was trying to say is this. Because of the person that I'm kind of like talking about, it just got to the point to where like you can compartmentalize to where like they can like come up with like justifications in doing what they're doing.
Right.
So what I meant to say was this: I'm on your side. I apologize. What I kind of misspoke just because I've drank, 4 big timbers and 2 cellos.
Well, I just
but-
reacting
No,
to.
but I mean, like, but what I'm trying to say is, like, you're right. What I like, and this is something that I've even talked to Chaz about a number of times, and he can, back this up. I've always told every person I've been romantic with, I'm just like, listen,
You have.
we're all human.
Sure. Yes.
Like, people fuck up in the
God,
heat,
yes.
especially in the heat of the moment. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say this. I feel like I don't.
In the
Because
heat of the moment,
no. And here's why.
not even with the
I can, Jeff.
the
I can.
Apache, or
Jeff.
the what was the chick with the socks?
Scully?
Scully. You
Oh.
eat it in the heat of the moment.
I'd rather.
She was the 10 though, right?
I'd rather live life as a eunuch. No, I feel like I don't just because I feel like I don't ever think I would just because I've some things I'm not going to say here. But I mean, like, I've just, like, circumstances have led me up to this point, especially with my process and the way I think about things. I'm always somebody that thinks full scope. And plus, I fucked up, and I saw just how bad. I fucked up based on staying in a relationship that I did not want to be in, but because everybody put the pressure on me to be in. And regardless, though, I was still responsible. And I fucked up even after that person had done me wrong, and I saw just how bad it destroyed that person's life. I'll never do it again. I won't, because that's the one thing it taught me. Look at things full scope, man. One fucking thing that you could do in your life, one thing, can just completely derail somebody else's, and that's empathy. We want to talk, like, you want to talk about empathy? That's it, man.
Yeah.
Because it still breaks my heart to this day to see that person, knowing that this person has gone through what she has. And granted, what she did was wrong, but I made the choice to stay with her. And then I also made the choice to cheat on her after staying with her. So nah, I don't think I ever will. It's an iron will. And plus, I mean, also the other thing is too, I mean, no, never mind. But nah, man, I mean, like, you gotta look at things full scope. And I mean, like, that's part of the fucking problem, man. I mean, like, people just, I'm all for having fun in the here and now, but I mean, for fuck's sake, dude. I mean, like, when you make a decision, there has to be some fucking part of you that knows, like, I don't give a shit how fucked up you are. You have to sit there and think, well, holy shit, this is gonna have some ramifications. Or shit.
Well, I think that's the problem is people do that. They make decisions and they don't have any idea or think about what the ramifications are. They're impulsive. And they get caught up in a dream or a fantasy world, right?
Right, and I get that.
And that's just part of life.
Yeah, just part of life.
And then they wake up. But it's fucking right. I mean, but full scope it's good to think that you could be, but you, me, anybody, well, I mean, you say you couldn't be caught up in anything but full scope, but I mean, I think any of us could be caught up in the heat of the moment. I know I could, which is hard to say in front of my wife, but anybody could be caught up in the heat of the moment. I think if it's the right circumstance, and you're at a weak moment, or you're at a tough part, so it's, you know, I mean,
I get, yeah.
And then it can make some things hard for your life, but my point is at the end of the day is the tough people and the people that are resilient, at the end of the day, they make the right choices, right? They fix things, they fight for it.
You fight for who and what you love and what you want out of life.
Yeah.
And again, that's like that. I think that's why, like, when somebody does fuck up, I mean, that's why you have to humble yourself and come before them and put yourself in a position of vulnerability and say, "Listen, I did something extremely wrong," and
Which we all do that.
absolutely,
Every single person
because
on this planet does
we're
it.
born in sin, man.
Yeah.
If you're the religious type.
Well, regardless, we all are human,
Yeah.
and we all think, do, act in ways that we shouldn't.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, I think when you show ownership with that, that's where things can be reconciled. I truly believe. When somebody comes to you and they own it, and they show that honesty after breaking a trust,
Sure.
that's the only way it's salvageable.
Right.
Because
But
I mean,
honesty prepares everything.
the truth shall set you free.
It does.
You know? And I
Yeah.
mean, but that's the only way. That's it. And I mean, that's the only way around it, man. I mean, like, again, people fuck up, but I mean, that's the only thing that can repair that fuck up is honesty.
Yeah.
You know?
And people is everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Anybody, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, I completely agree.
Or just being honest, just in general, like, not even if, like, somebody just, like I said, just even with, like, that relationship, or like, just being upfront about, like, even if you're not on the same point of, like, what the other person is feeling, just let them know.
Yeah.
Like, is it personal if you don't? Is it personal? I mean, would it be, like, Would you take it?
Like going into something?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, honestly, like I think that just being transparent about your intentions.
I'm saying if you're not. If you're not.
If you're not,
Is it personal? I guess.
I think it's selfish.
It's selfish would be the
Yeah.
word. Yeah, it's selfish would be.
And
the thing.
I mean, like that's the thing, man. I mean, like if you're just like if you're out at a bar and you're a man or a woman, you're just trying to take somebody home, and you're just like, oh, I'm going to make you my husband or my wife, and you have no intention of doing that. You're just trying to feed those carnal instincts.
Yeah, false hope.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, or false whatever.
Just fucking be honest, man. I mean, like be honest with your intentions.
Like what you're looking for. Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're upfront and you're honest on your side, I mean, like that's all you can do. That's all you can do. But, I don't know. Again, the thing about it is what's right is not always what's easy.
Oh,
And I feel
yeah.
like that's a problem with today, with
Especially
people
with
being
our
as
outrage.
with things being as easy and convenient as they are. People want to take the easy way out, and that's why I feel like they stray away from it. Which is why I think we have a serious morality problem here. But it is what it is. Anyway,
That got deep.
it did,
It did.
but
And just tired.
I get
Oh,
that.
I'm just taking it in. I'm just listening to everybody.
We got very
She's
deep.
quiet.
Who's like?
I'm just taking it in. I'm just listening.
She got those heavy eyes.
I know, I am tired.
She's sleepy.
Oh my fuck, she's passed out by now.
I know. It's crazy
Normally
she's
I
not in
am.
bed.
It's 12:15.
We got a late start.
We still don't even have the main event.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
I was gonna say what? Well, you came and picked me up around.
Close to 9. I'm
Yeah,
gonna be out here.
it was. Yeah, we did get a late start, but
We got two ladies fighting.
this is the event before the
Come
main
here,
event,
man.
right?
You wanna?
Co-main event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Co-main event.
The co-main event.
Are we gonna shut this podcast down and watch the fight,
Yes.
Yeah.
or for me, get under the blanket and?
Angie's going to be asleep in
I'm
less
getting ready to
than
take my
10.
eyelashes
She's
off
gonna
and
peel
wash
them
my
bitches
face.
off.
Those are real eyelashes. Don't kid the people out there.
I know, right? I wish they were. And take my makeup off and be vulnerable up in here because we've been talking about being vulnerable. Y'all gonna see the real face.
The real face.
The
I'll
witch
take
wart.
it.
The witch wart's gonna come out.
That's freaking.
I got a witch wart. Sucks.
All right.
Very well.
Okay, so this podcast is
Over. Good night.
Peace out.
Later.